All right, here we are. Continuing with section 7. We're going to talk about undercover work. So when a police officer is undercover, it means they're kind of either hiding who they are. In other words, they're pretending to be a drug dealer, or pretending to be a prostitute, or pretending to be a drug buyer. That's deception of identity. But they can also do deception of purpose, where they might be investigating one thing, but they kind of approach you and say, "Oh, we're investigating something else where you just might be a witness or have some information for us, and we want to talk to you," and kind of use that idea that they're there only talking to you as a witness for something else to kind of maybe gather some information or intelligence about what they are really trying to investigate. And that's called deception of purpose. When you're doing any kind of undercover work, you need to set out at the beginning. First, you need to say, what's your story? Who are you? Why are you doing what you're doing? There are certain questions that you should expect depending on what kind of deception you're doing. And you need to be ready with answers for those questions. If you ever watch the show Brooklyn Nine-Nine, the main character in that is really, really good at coming up with these just crazy random backstories that are really funny and interesting. It's a great show. The other question you got to ask yourself is, if you are with other bad guys when other police come and arrest you, are you going to be arrested too? Are they going to kind of maintain your cover and treat you like they're treating everyone else? Or is there really no need to do that? They can go ahead and kind of out you and kind of make it obvious that you are an undercover officer. That needs to be decided ahead of time. A few different court cases about undercover work. One of the more interesting or important was this Gordon v. Warren Consolidated Board of Education, where basically the police put undercover officers in a high school, and the Supreme Court ruled that was perfectly okay, even though the high school was full of minors, because these undercover officers were not a disruption to the learning environment at all. But it was essentially real life 21 Jump Street. So that was kind of art imitating life, or life imitating art. They've also been court cases that have supported police use of undercover officers in prisons and in online, chat rooms and other kind of online groups and communication. Entrapment. Entrapment is vastly misunderstood. I absolutely hate it when I see people either in media or on TV, like cops and live PD and things, where they always say, are you an undercover cop? Because if you're an undercover cop, you got to tell me or it's entrapment. Nonsense. Absolute, complete nonsense. Entrapment says nothing about deception. Police are perfectly allowed to deceive you that they're not police. That is not entrapment. So these two cases, these two U.S. Supreme Court cases, Sorrells v. U.S. and Sherman v. U.S., define entrapment, and entrapment only exists essentially when officers get people to do something they wouldn't have otherwise done. So does that require deception? Usually. But deception alone isn't enough. If I just say, no, I'm not a police officer, but I still buy drugs from the person because the person kind of initiated the drug selling thing, I haven't enticed them to do anything they weren't going to do. Now, if I'm an undercover officer and I walk up to somebody and I just say, hey, I really want to buy some drugs. Will you sell me some drugs? Please give me drugs. That could be entrapment. But if I'm an undercover officer and I just go up to somebody who's known to sell drugs and I say, hey, man, you holding? And they say, yeah, $20 for this. Then I haven't enticed them to do anything. They offered to sell me the drugs through their own free will. So it's only entrapment if the person can prove that they probably, or even maybe, wouldn't have done it except for the fact that the police kind of gave them the idea or started them on the process of committing that crime. Stings. Stings are a common police tool. There's 4 things required to have a sting. Number 1, the police either need to create or exploit the opportunity to commit a crime. So a lot of times what police will do is, put a fancy new bicycle, just dump it on a corner of a street in a neighborhood where they know bike theft has become a problem. Another good one, in a lot of states, but I think it started in California, they'll have bait cars where they'll leave a car that looks like it would be a good car to steal in a place where lots of cars get stolen. Or, they'll have an undercover officer sitting, walking around as a prostitute or a drug dealer, but they're creating this opportunity to commit a crime, or they're exploiting an already existing opportunity to commit a crime. They find some naturally occurring situation where they think, oh, somebody's about to do something bad here, and they set up a sting. They're specifically targeting either a specific offender or a group of offenders, bicycle thieves, car thieves, prostitution, the Johns, the clients, drug buyers. Number 3, there's an undercover or hidden police officer nearby that can come in and make the arrest. And then number 4, there's kind of that surprise ending where, oh, the police were ready and they come out and pop out as soon as you've committed the crime and they arrest you. So that's a sting, and it can be costly because a lot of times it takes a lot of officers and it takes a lot of time. But it can also have a huge number of arrests of criminals in a relatively short amount of time. So there's lots of benefits, but high costs. Raids. Raids can be done either as tools to arrest or to search or to seize, but usually, almost without exception, they're done with a warrant in hand. And you have to confirm that that warrant is ready to go. So how do we prepare for a raid? So confirm the warrant, right? We get pictures of the address. We'll have kind of a recon mission that'll drive past the address, taking pictures, maybe get, if plans for the building are available in the county building office, they'll grab the plans. They can grab, Zillow, which is a website for real estate. They have the floor plans for lots and lots and lots of homes all over the country. We get those pictures and the maps and the satellite imagery from Google Earth or whatever. Combine that all, and we label points of entry. So like front door, back door, if there's any side doors, garage, even windows, right? And so people know exactly what it's going to look like, where all the entry and exit points are, all those things. We check out, is there surveillance? So do the people have cameras up watching for approaching police? Do they have people hired to look out, up and down the street and warn of police coming? Do they have animals, big dogs or, some other kind of attack house cats or something? Are there children in the house living there or that commonly stay there? And after we have all that information, we make a simple plan. KISS there stands for keep it simple, stupid. Keep it simple. Don't be fancy. Basic plan. Things that work for a reason. Don't try to get too fancy. Make sure you have enough personnel that you're going to overwhelm any possible resistance inside, plus enough personnel to cover all of the exits. So you should probably have at least 1, if not 2 or 3 officers at each door and each, ground floor window, garage door exits. depending on the size of the house and the size of the number of people inside and all those things. You also have to worry about booby traps. Booby traps, either offensive booby traps in that, if you step on the wrong thing, it'll, I don't know, shock you or do something. Maybe they electrified the fence or something, whatever. There are also the defensive ones where they've, there are things called man traps where basically there's the front door and then a very small closet-sized area, and the front door has to close, and then they can kind of open the second door that leads from that little closet area into the actual building. So even if you break down the front door, there's still that, so you kind of have to break down two doors in order to actually get into the building, and that can be an issue. When you're actually accomplishing a raid or going on a raid, what are the rules? Number one, your goals are surprise, shock, and speed. The easiest way to make sure nobody gets hurt is to make it be over as fast as possible. You want everybody to be secure and no longer any possible threat before they even know what's going on. Okay? So speed, 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 speed. Before everybody needs an assignment, they need to know what their job is, and they need to just do their job. If your job is to do the RAM, you do the RAM, let somebody else do the next step. If your job is to watch the door, watch that door, don't try to go in. So know your assignment and do your job. There are different weapons that you can bring. Obviously, police normally, they have pistols. But if the raid is being done in a place where there's expected to be much stiffer resistance, there's either a lot of people, they're known to be really well armed. You might want to do either a rifle or a shotgun as a better, heavier firepower. The downside to that is it's harder to maneuver in small areas the longer your weapon, so maybe a pistol is still the better option. Depends. You should always have at least a sledgehammer and a pry bar ready to go. It's also nice to have these purpose-built rams like this one here. I've actually, when I was a grad student, I got to help with ram training at a facility designed to be rammed over and over and over again, and that's actually really fun. That's actually a really the physical ramming of a door is fun exercise, I guess you would call it. But anyway, you should always, 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 no matter how safe you plan to be, no matter how well planned or how well designed or whatever, accidents happen all the time. So you want to have at least one ambulance on standby, like a block away, maybe 2 blocks away, so that if something does happen, the ambulance can be on the scene in seconds. You want them to be right there, ready to go. There have been a lot of people, both police and suspects and completely innocent people in houses or buildings that the police raided, something bad happened, and they got injured and died before an ambulance could get there because there wasn't an ambulance on standby, or the ambulance couldn't help. So these raids are dangerous. They shouldn't be done unless they really need to be done. I'm going to go ahead and break it there for the next subsection.